a look at the understanding of cloud computing. So if you talk about cloud computing, major vendors like AWS, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Rackspace, everybody has a different understanding and different definition of cloud computing. Even if not only these big players but small players, they also have different definitions of cloud computing as per what they used to sell, what is their business model, as per the definition changes. And even if you go ahead and ask people about cloud computing, they come with different answers. Somebody says it's a storage, online storage, somebody says online servers, something else. Maybe you might also be thinking something around these points, right? So but as per the industry, if you talk about this whole technical industry, so we should have a definite definition, basic standard definition across the industry so that everybody can follow it. So according to the National Science and US National Institute of Standards and Technology, this is the definition which should be standard through the whole industry. So according to this definition, I will read out this definition and then I'll explain it to you. The cloud computing is a model for enabling convenient on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. Now you must be saying that you don't understand this definition. I totally understand because it's all technical, so I will explain it to you. So the first part is it is a model for enabling convenient and on-demand network access. So basically on-demand network access means throughout the internet. So whatever services they provide, basically they provide it through the internet or over the network, maybe a private network or through the public internet, right? So many of you might not be using, but you're already using some of the cloud services. So if you say Google search, so that is a cloud service. If you are using Gmail, that is a cloud service. If you are using Android phone and apps in there, that is a cloud service. If you're using Xbox Live or Office 365 mailing service, all of these are present in cloud for the respective vendors. So you're already using a lot of services that are present in cloud. Maybe you're not knowing it. So that is what means of on-demand network access. And then finally, it is the access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources. That means it covers network, server, storage, application, and services. So this is on the vendor side. Whoever is providing you services, they have already built their network, their data centers. They have their network, server, storage, everything in their data centers, and then they have built their services on top of their infrastructure, right? And then they are providing you that as a service. So they are providing you on-demand access through the internet, through on their network, servers, and different applications that they have in their data centers. And these can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. That means whenever you want to, let's suppose you're going to host your infrastructure on a particular cloud. Later we'll talk about how to host everything. But let's suppose you take a decision and you want to move it to cloud. So every time you want to provision a new server or a new database or storage space, you don't have to run to the service provider and ask them to do it. So you can do it on your own. So that is the benefit of cloud computing. So now you understand this definition. So now we'll look at a highest level and look at some features around this cloud computing. So basically it has 5 basic or essentials, fundamental principles you can say, that should be there in order to qualify it as a cloud. So basically when you talk about cloud computing, at the end of the day, it is just a data center or somebody else's data center who somebody has built in order to provide services. So if you boil it down, it is basically a data center which is providing services over the internet. So we'll talk about what features or principles should your data center follow in order to qualify or call it as a cloud. Then there are 3 different service models of cloud that we'll talk about. And then finally 4 deployment models that cloud generally follows whenever somebody wants to deploy a cloud. They define it under these 4 different models. So now let's begin at the highest level and look at 5 fundamental principles that go into cloud computing. So if you are wondering that the term cloud is a metaphor to denote cloud computing resources or computing network services that are deployed in an abstracted fashion. Typically, off-premises is a cloud service provider's data center. So as I earlier told, everything, if you boil it down, all the cloud basically is services provided through somebody else's data center. In this case, your Microsoft. So Microsoft has several data centers spread all over the world in which it hosts your cloud services that you pay for in a subscription pay-as-you-go basis. So we'll look at these 5 basic principles, and it is also defined by US National Institute of Standards and Technology. So these 5 principles are standard across the industry. Anybody has to follow these 5 principles in order to qualify their data center as a cloud. So first of all, we'll start with on-demand self-service, and it means that cloud computing gives administrator or even non-administrators the ability to access the infrastructure and provision these infrastructure or the services that they want on demand for themselves. So whenever you want to provision anything, you just go there, log in to their web portal, or through code or anything that you want to go ahead. There are several methods of logging in or accessing cloud services. So whenever you want or you require, you can go ahead and provision any amount of services. Maybe it may be a virtual machine, it may be a virtual network, it may be a storage space, it may be applications, anything that you want. You can go ahead and provision them as and when you need. So that is what is called on-demand self-service. So then you have what is called a broad network access. Second point. So broad network access again means that is the services are available throughout the network. So it might be if a company has deployed the infrastructure and it is already if it is a private cloud, so we'll talk what is a private cloud later. So and it is an organization is using it. So again, it has to be, all the services has to be through the network, and all the employees or everything inside the organization should be able to access this cloud resources through the network. Or if it is public, then obviously everybody can go ahead and access this through the internet and can connect to it and can provision any resources. So it has to be through the internet, or if it is only for an enterprise, then again through the private or the enterprise network. Then you have resource pooling. So resource pooling is nothing but it is from the actually cloud service provider point of view. So when you talk about resource pooling, they have all of these servers and networks and storage equipments and different management tools, all of those put together in their data centers. So what they do, they pool these resources, like thousands of servers they have, so they deploy it in different clusters. So they have pooled these resources together and they provide it to you as per your need. So one of the important points is resource pooling. It is not again on customer point of view, but it is from the service provider's point of view. In this case, that is Microsoft Azure. Now the next point or the next feature is fundamental principle is rapid elasticity. So elasticity, when you talk about elasticity, is nothing but the flexibility to control your infrastructure and also rapidly growing or shrinking whenever you need. So whenever you want to deploy an application, you need that application to be live as soon as possible. So the time to market should be very, very less. So in this case, cloud helps you in that format, so you don't have to worry about your underlying infrastructure, and this you can just go and deploy your application, and in almost a few minutes your application will be live to go on the internet. So that is one point. That is what is called as rapid elasticity. It gives you the flexibility to choose the service and deploy it within minutes and going live with that service within again minutes. And it also provides you cost reduction. Finally, we have measured services. So it is again from the cloud services point of view. Whatever you use, you pay for it. This cloud is basically a pay as you go model, right? So in your on-premises traditional infrastructure, you buy all the services. Okay, you buy your servers, first you rent a place, then you buy your servers, your network equipments, your storage equipments, you buy the different racks to fit all those equipments in, and then you network it, cable it, and then put your application on top of it, and then finally you go ahead and use those services. So this is what is called as capital expenditure. So there's a huge capital expenditure before even you start using or deploying your application, right? So this is a huge cost, not everybody can incur it. So that's why as they say, there's no capital expenditure in cloud computing model, and then there is only what is called as operational expenditure in cloud computing. So that is why this is measured services. So whatever you use and for how much time you use, you only pay for that. So let's suppose you created a server, you provisioned a server, a virtual machine, and then you run it for maybe 5 days. So you'll have to pay only for those 5 days. You don't have to pay for anything else. So that is what is called measured service. So each and every service that you use has a definite cost associated with it, basis on maybe per minute or per hour of billing. It depends upon the service, and then for whatever amount you use that service, you pay for that much amount. And then finally, if you don't want that survey, you can delete that and then you can just go off. So again, we'll just review these 5 services. That was on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured services. So hopefully now you're aware about all these 5 terms.